The first question Caleb Rook records is not whether Sarah Good has harmed the children. Magistrate John Hathorne asks why she has done it. On the first day of March 1692, the meeting house in Salem village is crowded beyond its benches. Farmers and their wives stand along the walls, still wearing their winter coats. Near the front sit several girls whose unexplained fits have brought two magistrates from Salem town. Caleb is 23 years old and has lived in Massachusetts for less than a year. He earns his living copying contracts, debts, and property settlements for men wealthy enough to require clean duplicates. His handwriting is compact, legible, and almost entirely without ornament, which is why Hathorne has hired him for the day. The Reverend Samuel Parris sits beside him and records the formal examination. Caleb has been instructed to preserve names, accusations, and anything that might later be required by the magistrates. Sarah Good is brought inside. She is 38 years old, pregnant, and dressed in clothes that have been repaired too many times. Her family lost its property years before. Since then, Sarah and her husband have survived through temporary labor, begging, and the diminishing patience of their neighbors. Hathorne waits until she is standing before the table. He does not ask whether she knows anything about witchcraft.
Sarah Good, you have been brought before us because these children say that you have tormented them. Tell the court which evil spirit you employ.
I employ no spirit, sir. I have never made any agreement with the devil, nor have I harmed any child in this village.
Then you must explain why they fall into fits whenever you look upon them.
I cannot explain what troubles them. You must ask the children or the physician who examined them. I know no more of their suffering than you do.
One of the girls bends backwards against the bench, while another clutches her arm and cries that something is biting her. Caleb turns towards them, but from where he sits he can see no wound. Hathorne does not examine the girl's arm.
You see what happens in your presence, yet you continue to deny it. If you do not torment these children yourself, whom have you employed to do it for you?
I have employed nobody. They accuse me because I am poor, and because some of them dislike seeing me at their doors. That does not make me a witch.
The children suffer before the entire village. Their condition cannot be dismissed as a private quarrel.
Nor can their condition prove that I caused it. They may speak my name as often as they please, but I cannot confess to something I have not done.
Has Sarah Osborne worked with you?
No, I have never worked with Sarah Osborne.
Then perhaps she acts alone. Is it Sarah Osborne who sends the spirits against these children?
I do not know what Sarah Osborne does. If someone has bewitched them, you should question her instead of me.
She did not accuse Sarah Osborne directly. She said that you should question her.
The distinction can be preserved in the full examination. Your task is to record every person connected to the accusation.
Then I shall write that Sarah Osborne was named, but not that Sarah Good identified her as a witch.
Write the name first. We can decide upon the wording when the examination is copied.
Caleb writes Sarah Osborne beneath Sarah Good. By the time Sarah is removed from the meeting house, her answer has already become shorter than the one she gave. Sarah Osborne is brought forward next. She is older, unwell, and unable to stand without leaning against the table. She denies harming the girls, but admits that the devil might possess the power to appear in the shape of an innocent person. The magistrates preserve the admission and disregard the innocence. By late afternoon, Caleb's fingers have grown stiff from the cold. 2 women have denied practicing witchcraft, and both have been ordered into custody. The third prisoner is Tituba, an enslaved woman from the household of Reverend Parris. The room becomes restless as soon as she enters. Several people lean forward in anticipation, while the afflicted girls begin to cry out once again.
Tituba, these children say that you appear before them and cause them great pain. You will now tell us why you have done so.
I have never wished to hurt them. Something came to me and ordered me to obey, but I did not call for it and I did not ask it to come.
What was this thing that commanded you?
Sometimes I saw a man, although I did not know his name. At other times there was a great black dog, a red cat, and creatures whose shapes I could not understand.
Did the man command you to serve him and torment the children?
He threatened me when I refused him. He said that he would hurt me if I did not do what he wanted.
Were Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne also servants of this man?
I saw them with him, or shapes that appeared to be theirs. They told me that I must hurt the children, but I tried not to obey them.
The atmosphere inside the meeting house changes. The crowd had challenged every denial made by Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne. Now that Tituba has begun to confess, no one interrupts her. Even the afflicted girls become quiet enough to listen.
You have spoken of 2 women, but a conspiracy of this kind is rarely the work of only 3 people. How many others have entered into the devil's service?
I cannot tell you how many there are. The man showed me a book containing several marks, but I could not read the names beside them.
How many marks did you see?
There may have been 9, although I cannot be certain. He turned the pages before I could look at them properly.
Were those marks made by people living in this colony?
That is what the man told me. I did not recognize them, and he would not tell me all their names.
You will have silence. This woman has begun to reveal a conspiracy, and she must be permitted to complete her account.
I have told you everything that I remember.
You have told us what you are prepared to admit today. When the remaining names return to your memory, you will give them to the court.
Caleb looks down at the page before him. Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, Tituba. Beneath the 3 names, he records that several unidentified people have also placed their marks in the Devil's Book. Tituba did not say that she saw anyone make those marks. She said only that a man showed them to her and claimed that they belonged to people in the colony. The difference appears important when spoken aloud, but untidy when reduced to a single line. Caleb has been taught that witnesses repeat themselves, contradict themselves, and surround useful facts with unnecessary words. A competent clerk removes the hesitation while preserving the meaning. He does not yet understand that hesitation can be part of the meaning. Caleb draws a line beneath the 3 names. He then turns the page and leaves enough room for those still to come. "7 weeks after the first examinations, Caleb Rook returns to the meeting house in Salem village. The snow has melted, but winter has left the roads deep in mud. Caleb's boots are wet, his coat smells of rain, and the room is even more crowded than it was in March. Accusations have spread beyond the 3 women first taken into custody. Every examination now produces fresh names, and every new name brings more spectators. Caleb no longer copies ordinary contracts. Magistrate Hathorne has retained him to prepare duplicates of warrants, depositions, and examinations. The work is steady, and the payment arrives when promised. That morning, Bridget Bishop is brought before the magistrates. She is nearly 60. Years earlier, another accusation of witchcraft was made against her, but no conviction followed. She therefore enters the room already familiar with the manner in which neighbours can transform an old quarrel into evidence.
Bridget Bishop, you have been brought before lawful authority to account for the witchcrafts in which you are involved. Several persons present say that your shape has appeared to them and caused them great suffering.
I ask everyone in this room to witness that I am innocent. I have entered into no covenant, sent out no spirit, and harmed none of those who now accuse me.
The afflicted do not merely accuse you. They are tormented whenever you look upon them, and their bodies respond to the movements of your own.
If they choose to move when I move, you must question them about their purpose. I cannot govern another person's body simply by turning my head.
You speak as though this were a choice they make willingly. Look towards them now and observe what follows.
Bridget turns towards the bench where the afflicted sit. One of the girls twists away from her, pressing both hands against her face. Another begins to shake. The people surrounding them draw back.
You have scarcely looked at them, yet they cannot endure it. How do you explain what everyone in this meeting house has witnessed?
I cannot explain why they behave as they do. I can only tell you that my eyes possess no power over them.
Raise your right hand.
For what purpose?
You are before the magistrates, Goody Bishop. Raise your hand.
Bridget raises her right hand. An afflicted girl immediately cries out and lifts her own arm, her wrist bent sharply towards her body.
She is pulling it. Make her release me.
I have not touched you. You lifted your arm after the magistrate commanded me to lift mine.
Lower your hand.
When Bridget obeys, the girl's arm falls against the bench. A murmur moves through the room as those at the back ask what has happened.
You instructed everyone to watch my hand. The girl watched it as well. Her movement followed mine because the whole room expected that it would.
You suggest that a suffering child has deceived the magistrates, the clergy, and the people of this village.
I suggest only that she saw me raise my hand. That requires neither witchcraft nor deception.
Then perhaps you will tell us what witchcraft does require.
I do not know what a witch is according to your meaning because I have never been one.
How can you know that you are not a witch when you claim not to know what a witch is?
I know that I have never made a covenant with the devil. I know that I have never sent my spirit into another person's house. And I know that I cannot injure a child by moving my hand. If your definition requires something more, then you must provide it.
The court is not here to provide you with answers. You are here to answer the court.
I have answered every question you asked. You refuse to accept the answers because they do not agree with the guilt you expected to find.
Your insolence will not protect you. The afflicted have identified your shape, and their suffering increases in your presence. Those facts will be entered into the record.
Then enter my answer beside them. I am innocent, and nothing that happened in this room has proved otherwise.
Bridget Bishop is removed under guard. The afflicted remain on their bench, wrapped in blankets and surrounded by relatives. Caleb waits until the room has begun to empty. Reverend Parris places his notes on the table, while another account of the examination is brought to them by Ezekiel Cheever, who recorded the proceedings from elsewhere in the room. The two versions contain the same questions, but not always in the same order. One describes Bridget moving before the afflicted girl cries out. The other places the cry before the movement.
These accounts do not establish the same sequence. According to Mr. Cheever, the girl began to suffer before Bridget raised her hand.
Both accounts establish that the child was afflicted while Bridget Bishop stood before her. Neither recorder could observe every movement in a crowded room.
The order matters if her movement is supposed to have caused the fit. An effect cannot come before its cause.
You are assuming that the visible movement was the beginning of the attack. Her specter may have acted before her hand revealed what she was doing.
If the specter cannot be seen and does not need to move with her body, then the test with her hand proves very little.
It proves what the magistrates intended it to prove. When Bridget moved, the afflicted responded, and everyone present witnessed the connection.
They witnessed two movements. The connection between them is an interpretation.
Every written account is an interpretation, Mr. Rook. That is why the court employs men capable of producing a clear one.
Caleb looks again at the two sets of notes. Neither contains everything he remembers, but nothing written upon them is entirely false. He prepares a single account in which Bridget Bishop moves her hand and the afflicted girl is immediately tormented. The sequence is clean, the language is precise, and the uncertainty disappears without requiring Caleb to cross out a single fact. Before leaving, he reads the passage once more. It sounds clearer than what happened. For the first time, Caleb wonders whether that is the problem. On May 27, 1692, Governor William Phips creates a special court to hear and determine the growing number of witchcraft cases. 6 days later, its judges assemble in Salem town. William Stoughton presides as Chief Justice, while Stephen Sewell takes an oath to serve as clerk. Sewell is 35, prosperous, and accustomed to treating written procedure as the foundation of lawful government. Caleb Rook is assigned to work beneath him. The court's first defendant is Bridget Bishop.
Bridget Bishop, you have heard the indictments brought against you. Several persons testify that your specter has tormented them, while others describe injuries and misfortunes that followed quarrels with you. How do you answer these charges?
I answer them as I did before the magistrates. I have harmed none of these people, and I cannot be responsible for a shape that another person claims to see. If the devil may assume an innocent woman's appearance, then the appearance proves nothing about the woman.
The jury will determine what the evidence proves. Your task is to answer truthfully before God and this court.
I have answered truthfully, but every denial is treated as another deception. If I dispute a witness, I am insolent. If I cannot explain a child's fit, I am concealing witchcraft. You have arranged the question so that innocence has no language of its own.
You were not brought here because of a single answer. The accusations against you extend across many years and come from several households.
An old quarrel does not become true because someone remembers it during a witch trial. Nor does a sick animal prove that the neighbor it once kicked served the devil.
Witnesses describe apparitions entering their rooms at night. They recall children falling ill, livestock behaving strangely, and Bridget's image appearing where her body could not have been. The afflicted identify her in court. When Bridget moves, they twist their bodies. When she looks towards them, they complain of invisible hands closing around their throats. Caleb's fair copy of the April examination is read aloud. The uncertainty he noticed while preparing it is absent from the finished account.
The record states that your bodily movements produced corresponding torments in the afflicted. Do you continue to deny what was witnessed openly?
I deny your explanation of it. The girls moved after I moved because every person in the room was watching for them to do so. You call that correspondence witchcraft because you had already decided what the movement meant.
The court has heard your answer.
The jury withdraws only briefly. When the men return, their foreman stands before the judges.
We find Bridget Bishop guilty of the witchcrafts and sorceries contained in the indictments.
Bridget closes her eyes, but does not collapse. Caleb watches Stephen Sewell enter the verdict beside her name.
Tituba confessed 3 months ago, yet she has not been brought to trial. Bridget Bishop denied every accusation, and the court has judged her first.
A prisoner who confesses can reveal how the devil's conspiracy is organized and identify those who remain concealed. A prisoner who denies the charge while the evidence stands against her leaves the court with less to investigate.
Then confession postpones judgment, while denial brings it closer.
You mistake delay for pardon. Tituba remains imprisoned, and nothing prevents the court from judging her later. For now, her knowledge is useful.
Bridget Bishop gave the court no names.
She maintained her innocence. If the verdict is correct, that means she protected every person with whom she had entered into covenant.
Caleb looks towards Bridget as the guards lead her away. Until that moment, he had believed confession was the clearest proof of guilt. The court has found a use for silence as well. 8 days later, on the morning of June 10th, Bridget Bishop is taken from Salem jail. A cart carries her beyond the closely built streets towards the low rise where the sentence will be carried out. She is the first person condemned by the new court and the only prisoner scheduled to die that day. Caleb accompanies the sheriff's officers because Stephen Sewell requires a written return confirming that the judgment has been executed. When the cart stops, Bridget recognizes Caleb among the officials. She studies him for several moments before speaking.
You are the young man who wrote during my examination. Tell me plainly whether you recorded my answers, or only the meaning the magistrates found in them.
I recorded that you denied making a covenant, denied sending out your spirit, and denied harming the afflicted. Those answers remain in the court's account.
Then why did every man who read that account speak as though my denials proved the opposite? Your writing preserved my words, yet it did nothing to preserve their meaning.
The verdict was decided by the jury. I did not accuse you, examine you, or determine the sentence.
No, you made their work clean. That is a different thing, although perhaps not so different as you would like it to be.
A sheriff's officer orders Caleb to step away. Bridget turns from him and faces the waiting minister. She is offered a final opportunity to acknowledge her guilt. She refuses. The prayer is brief. Caleb does not look away when the sentence is carried out. That afternoon, he returns to the room where the court keeps its papers. Stephen Sewell places Bridget's file before him.
Add the date of execution beneath the sentence, then attach the sheriff's return. Once both are entered, the record will be complete.
Should it include that she denied the charge again before her death?
The examination already contains her plea, and the judgment records the jury's decision. Her final repetition changes neither.
It changes what she believed when she died.
We preserve the actions of the court, Mr. Rook. We do not preserve every thought carried to the gallows.
Caleb writes the date beneath the sentence and attaches the sheriff's return. The completed file contains the accusation, the examination, the verdict, and the execution. Nothing in it records the 8 days between them, during which a living woman continued to insist that the court was wrong. In July 1692, the accusations reach Andover. Joseph Ballard is 41 and owns a farm near the centre of the settlement. His wife Elizabeth has been ill for several months, suffering from fevers, sudden pains, and the sensation of a weight pressing upon her body. Neither prayer nor the remedies brought by her neighbours have relieved her. After hearing what has happened in Salem village, Joseph asks for 2 of the afflicted girls to be brought to his house. If they can identify invisible tormentors in Salem, he believes they may also identify the person harming his wife. Magistrate Hathorne sends Caleb with them to record whatever they observe.
She was strong before this summer. She managed the house, worked in the garden, and carried water without asking anyone for help. Now she wakes with bruises that were not there the night before, and says that someone sits upon her chest.
A fever can produce pain, confusion, and terrible dreams. The girls are witnesses in witchcraft proceedings, Mr. Ballard, but that does not make them physicians.
The physicians have already failed her. If the court accepts what these girls see in Salem, I have no reason to dismiss what they see in my house.
The court examines people after an accusation has been made. You are asking the girls to discover whom you should accuse.
I am asking them to look at my wife. If they see nothing, you may record that nothing was found.
One of the girls approaches the bed. She watches Elizabeth for several moments before her breathing becomes shallow and her hands begin to shake.
There is a woman beside her. She is bending over the bed and pressing both hands against Mistress Ballard's chest.
Can you see her face?
She turns away whenever I try to look at her.
You have identified spectres before. Command her to show herself.
She is an old woman. Her name is Foster. She knows that I can see her. She says she will hurt me as she has hurt your wife.
Anne Foster lives less than 2 miles from here. My wife has known her for years.
That also means the girl may have heard her name before today.
She did not ask me for a name. She gave me one.
She gave you the name of an elderly widow after being told that witchcraft was present in this room? That may justify questions, but it does not establish who caused your wife's illness.
You can afford uncertainty because it is not your wife lying in that bed. I must decide whether to act while Elizabeth is still alive.
Anne Foster is arrested and brought to Salem. Under examination, she confesses and implicates members of her own family. Elizabeth Ballard does not recover. She dies on July 27th. Her death does not end the accusations, it gives them a body. By early September, dozens of people in Andover have been accused. The method used to identify them is called the touch test. Suspected women are blindfolded and led into a room where the afflicted are already waiting. If a fit ends when the suspect touches its victim, the recovery is treated as evidence that the same person caused the suffering. Martha Tyler is among the women brought for testing.
You have covered my eyes and placed me in a room I cannot see. How am I supposed to know whom you bring before me, or what happens when you move my hands?
You do not need to see the afflicted. If your touch draws the torment back into your own body, their response will reveal what your eyes might attempt to conceal.
Then every part of this test depends upon what they do. I can neither choose whom I touch, nor prevent them from claiming that they have recovered.
The afflicted will also be observed. This is not a private encounter in which either side may act without witnesses.
A room full of witnesses does not make the test fair when everyone has already agreed what my touch is supposed to mean.
A constable takes Martha by the wrist and places her hand against the afflicted girl's arm. The girl's breathing slows. Within moments, her body becomes still.
You felt the change beneath your hand. She was released as soon as you touched her.
I felt someone move my arm and place my hand upon another person. Everything else was hidden from me.
Your refusal to acknowledge what occurred does not alter what the room witnessed.
The room witnessed a frightened woman being led by the wrist. If the girl had continued her fit, you would have said my spirit resisted. Because she stopped, you say the torment returned to me. What result could possibly have proved my innocence?
Innocence would have been shown if the afflicted had not identified you before the test.
Then the test proves nothing. You considered me guilty before you tied the cloth around my eyes.
Martha is arrested with the other women whose touch produced the expected recovery. They are to be taken from Andover to Salem for examination. Caleb records that the afflicted girl recovered when Martha Tyler's hand was placed upon her. He then adds that Martha was blindfolded and that a constable guided the hand. The additional words make the account less orderly. For the first time, Caleb leaves them there. The journey from Andover to Salem occupies most of the day. Martha Tyler rides under guard, with her brother, John Bridges, beside her. John is a blacksmith and a respected member of the Andover community. He has come because he believes his presence will help his sister understand what the magistrates require. For the first miles, Martha refuses to speak to him.
You cannot continue denying what happened in that room. The afflicted named you before the test, and when your hand touched the girl, she recovered. Everyone present witnessed it.
They blindfolded me and moved my arm themselves. I could not see the girl, and I did not know when her fit began or whether it had already started to pass.
You speak as though the magistrates, the constables, and our neighbors arranged the entire proceeding to deceive you. These are sober men who would not risk their souls by condemning an innocent woman.
Sober men can still be mistaken. If enough people repeat the same error, that does not transform it into truth.
You should consider the possibility that they understand your condition better than you do. The devil deceives those who serve him and may prevent them from recognizing what they have become.
If I deny being a witch, you say the devil has blinded me. If I confess, you will say the devil has been exposed. You have constructed an answer that cannot be disproved.
I am trying to save your life. Those who resist the court are brought to trial, while those who confess may be shown mercy. You have a family in Andover, and they need you to return.
You are asking me to stand before God and admit a covenant that I never made. If I confess, I shall lie. Who will answer for that lie when I am judged?
God would not permit so many good men to remain in error over something this grave. Your confession would not be a lie if they have recognized what you cannot yet see.
Then you believe every man in that room before you believe your own sister.
I believe that confession gives you a chance to live. Your innocence will provide little comfort when they place a rope around your neck.
John repeats the warning as Salem draws nearer. Each time Martha denies the charge, he returns to the touch test, the afflicted girl's recovery, and the certainty of the men who witnessed it. By the time they reach the town, Martha is no longer arguing that the court is wrong. She is asking how many lies it will require. Martha is taken to a private room before her formal examination. John Bridges stands on one side of her. On the other is John Emerson, an Andover neighbor who claims that he can see the devil before Martha's eyes. He repeatedly sweeps his hand through the empty air as though driving something away from her face. Caleb is summoned to record what she admits.
There is nothing before my eyes. I see the wall, the table, and the three men who continue telling me that I see something else.
Mr. Emerson sees what holds you. If you continue resisting, he will leave, and then you will be abandoned to it.
I would rather be left in the deepest dungeon than remain in this room while you tell me that my own sight cannot be trusted.
If you refuse to confess, you will be destroyed in both body and soul. I cannot protect you after the magistrates conclude that you remain devoted to the devil.
A confession must be given by the prisoner. I cannot record an account supplied by her relatives or neighbors.
She is frightened and confused. We are helping her understand what has already been proved.
No, John. You are teaching me which answer will make you stop.
I am telling you the only answer that may bring you home alive.
The pressure continues until Martha begins to repeat what is proposed to her. She acknowledges that the devil may have appeared before her without her understanding him. When asked whether she touched his book, she eventually says that she may have done so. Each uncertain answer produces another question, and each question requires greater certainty than the one before it. Caleb records the confession in Martha's own voice, although increasingly few of its ideas belong to her.
You have said that you entered the devil's service, afflicted the girl in Andover, and placed your hand upon a book. Do you affirm that these statements are true?
I affirm that these are the statements you required before anyone would permit me to leave this room.
Martha, do not withdraw now. You have finally spoken honestly.
I have spoken as you demanded. That is not the same thing.
Later that evening, Stephen Sewell reviews Caleb's notes before the confession is prepared for the magistrates.
You have included several objections made before she acknowledged the covenant. Those denials are unnecessary once the prisoner has corrected them herself.
She did not describe them as corrections. She said that she accepted each proposition because the men in the room would not accept anything else.
Confessions are rarely delivered without resistance. The court requires what she ultimately owned, not every stage through which she passed before owning it.
If the pressure changed her answer, then the pressure is part of the answer.
It is part of the examination, not the confession. Prepare the clean copy from the point at which she began to acknowledge the truth.
Caleb prepares the confession as instructed. The objections disappear, the uncertainties become declarations, and the statements suggested by others appear beneath Martha Tyler's name. Batchy is taken to the jail. Martha sees him place the finished page beside the other records.
I believed that nothing could make me confess against myself. Now I have wronged the truth and accused myself falsely. If you preserve any words I spoke today, preserve those.
The sentence does not appear in the clean confession. Caleb leaves it uncrossed in his private notes. Samuel Wardwell was 46 years old, a carpenter from Andover. His neighbours knew him as a husband, a father, and a man who could fit a door closely enough to keep out a New England winter. They also remembered that he sometimes told fortunes for amusement, and that several of his predictions had appeared to come true.
When young people asked what awaited them, I looked at their hands and gave them something to laugh over. I never claimed that spirits instructed me, nor did anyone call it witchcraft until the accusations began.
Yet you understood why the magistrates wished to question you about it.
I understood that every foolish thing a man has ever done is being given a different name. A jest becomes a prophecy, a quarrel becomes a curse, and a neighbor who once laughed beside you now remembers that he was always afraid.
On the 1st of September, Wardwell was brought before Justice John Higginson. Caleb sat beneath the magistrate's table with several clean sheets before him. By then, he knew that the emptiness of a page seldom lasted long.
You have been accused of tormenting Martha Sprague and of entering into covenant with the devil. Before we proceed further, I advise you to consider the condition of your soul and answer without concealment.
I have considered it since the constable came to my house. I never harmed Martha Sprague, and I have made no covenant with anything except my wife, my creditors, and the men who pay me for my work.
Ephraim Foster says you foretold that his wife would bear 5 daughters before she bore a son, and events unfolded exactly as you predicted. He also recalls your claim that you could summon cattle whenever you pleased. How did an ordinary carpenter acquire such knowledge and power?
The prediction was a fortunate guess, remembered because it happened to be right. As for the cattle, I carried salt and called them at feeding time. They came because they knew my voice, not because invisible spirits drove them toward me.
You offer natural explanations now, when your liberty and perhaps your life depend upon them. Your neighbors describe a man who took pleasure in possessing knowledge that other men did not.
My neighbors brought their questions willingly, and they praised my cleverness whenever I pleased them. If I had known they would one day place those same words before a magistrate, I would have kept my cleverness to myself.
Caleb recorded the exchange, but the balance of it changed beneath his hand. Wardwell's explanations became denials, while the recollections of his neighbors became evidence.
The court understands that Satan may draw a man into his service through vanity, anger, or discontent. A sinner who recognizes the snare may yet seek mercy, while one who persists in falsehood declares which master he has chosen.
You say that a confession may prove repentance, while a denial proves allegiance to the devil. If those are the only meanings you permit, then you have left no honest answer for an innocent man.
Your denial has been heard and entered. I am now asking you to examine whether pride has prevented you from recognizing what has already taken place.
Then my denial was not an answer at all. It was merely the first thing I had to surrender before you would listen.
Caleb preserved Wardwell's words, though he knew they would not carry equal weight. The magistrate's reasoning could advance the examination. The prisoner's reasoning could only delay it.
You have admitted that you were often discontented when work was scarce. You have also been heard telling troublesome animals that the devil might take them. Is it impossible that such words provided him with an opportunity?
I have cursed a broken tool, an empty purse, and a beast that trampled my planting. Men speak carelessly when they are angry, but a careless word is not an invitation. If the devil answered every curse spoken in Andover, there would be no room left for us.
You should not presume to know which words he hears, or how he makes use of them. A man may enter a snare long before he feels it closing around him.
And if I agree that there may be a snare, you will ask me to describe it. Once I have described it, you will call the description a confession.
I will call it whatever the truth requires.
Wardwell turned toward Caleb. For the first time, his expression contained less defiance than calculation.
You have written the examinations of other prisoners. Tell me honestly, what becomes of those who continue to deny every accusation?
Those judged fit for trial are sent before the court, where their denials are heard beside the testimony against them.
And the prisoners who confess and give the magistrates what they require, are they sent to the same place?
Many have remained in prison while they are questioned further. A confession has sometimes delayed a trial, although no clerk can promise what the court will eventually decide.
A delay may be the only kind of mercy that is still available.
It was not a declaration of guilt. It was the reasoning of a man who had begun to understand the rules of the room.
I have wondered whether my foolish talk gave the devil an opportunity, though I did not recognize it at the time. Perhaps my discontent placed me nearer to his influence than a Christian man should allow himself to be.
That is a beginning, but repentance requires greater honesty. Describe the occasion on which this influence first appeared to you.
It was nearly 20 years ago, when I was troubled over a young woman named Barker who had rejected my affection. I remember seeing several cats behind Captain Bradstreet's house, and there may have been a man standing near them.
You saw the cats together with the appearance of a man. Tell us what this man called himself and what he offered you.
He called himself a prince of the air. He promised that I should live comfortably and rise above my present condition, perhaps even becoming a captain.
Wardwell had supplied the first outline. Higginson's questions now gave the memory its shape, while Caleb's pen transformed each uncertain addition into an orderly sequence.
What did this prince demand in return for his promises? Did he require you to worship him? And did he present a book in which your covenant could be recorded?
He required that I honor and believe him. A black man later brought a book with a pen and ink, and I placed a mark upon the page rather than writing my name.
Describe the mark precisely, and tell the court how long you promised to remain in his service.
The mark was shaped like a square. The covenant was to continue until I reached 60 years of age, although none of the comforts he promised were ever given to me.
Caleb looked at the man seated before him. Wardwell was 46. The confession had now supplied 14 more years to a bargain that had not existed when the examination began.
Did the devil also baptize you into his service? Consider whether you were taken to the Shawshin River, immersed beneath the water, and made to renounce your former Christian baptism.
I remember the river, and I can imagine being immersed there. If that is what occurred, then I suppose I must also have renounced the baptism I received as a Christian.
You have said that you suppose it occurred. Are you recalling something you had forgotten? Or agreeing that the magistrate's account might be true?
I no longer know where memory ends and agreement begins. Every time I say that I am uncertain, the question returns in a form that permits only one answer.
Master Rook, your duty is to preserve the prisoner's confession, not to dispute the manner in which his conscience has been awakened.
I understand my duty, sir.
Caleb returned to the page. He wrote that Wardwell had been baptized in the Shawshin River and believed he had renounced his former baptism. The sentence preserved the uncertainty, though only in a single, easily overlooked word.
You must now confess the injuries committed through your covenant. Whom did you afflict, and by what means did you give the devil permission to torment them?
Martha Sprague was the first. When I became discontented, I pinched my coat and its buttons, and the devil understood that gesture as permission to pinch and torment her.
You could not have acted alone for so many years. Name the others who belonged to the same company and participated in these afflictions.
Mary Lilly and Hannah Tyler may have belonged to it. I cannot tell you how I know this, except that names are expected whenever a confession reaches this point.
If other names are known to you, withholding them would place additional suffering upon the innocent.
There will always be another name if you continue asking. The absence of one will be treated as concealment, while the giving of one will become proof against someone else.
Higginson examined the completed pages. Wardwell had confessed to a covenant, a diabolical baptism, the torment of Martha Sprague, and the existence of accomplices. The account contained every feature the authorities expected, because the examination had provided a place for each of them.
You have begun to free your soul from the snare by acknowledging the truth. If you continue without concealment, spiritual mercy may yet remain possible.
You speak carefully of mercy for my soul, but you have said nothing about what the court intends to do with my body.
The judgment of your body belongs to the court. My concern today has been the truth of your confession.
Master Rook, when these pages are read aloud, will anyone hear how the answers were reached? Or will they hear only that every word was taken from my mouth?
They will hear that you spoke the words and acknowledged the confession. The questions that led you toward them will remain in my notes, but they may not appear in the account used against you.
Then the record will say that I built this story, although the magistrate placed every piece of timber into my hands.
Caleb could not deny it. Wardwell had spoken every answer, yet almost none of those answers had existed before the questioning began.
The others told us that confession was a door through which a prisoner might escape the rope. I would still like to know where that door actually leads.
I have begun to wonder whether it was ever intended to lead outside.
12 days later, Samuel Wardwell would be ordered to acknowledge the confession before the grand inquest. This time, he would tell them what Caleb's clean account had concealed. On the 13th of September, Samuel Wardwell's confession was placed before the grand inquest. 12 days had passed since he described the Prince of the Air, the square mark, and the baptism in the Shawshin River. The account returned to him no longer as the product of an examination, but as evidence carrying his name.
The confession states that you entered into covenant with the devil, promised to honor him until your 60th year, and later afflicted Martha Sprague. Were these words taken from your mouth?
The words came from my mouth, and I will not pretend otherwise. They were spoken because every denial was returned to me as proof of guilt, while confession was presented as the only path by which my life might be preserved.
You acknowledge that you supplied the account freely enough for the clerk to record it. Are you now claiming that every detail was invented?
I am saying that I belied myself. The magistrate offered one part and waited until I supplied another. By the end, I could no longer distinguish what I remembered from what I had accepted, merely because acceptance caused the questioning to move forward.
No instrument was used against you, and no officer threatened violence. You were repeatedly instructed to tell the truth, after which you confessed in considerable detail.
A man does not require a blade against his throat when he has watched deniers sent toward the gallows and confessors kept alive. I understood the choice placed before me, even though no one was willing to state it plainly.
The foreman looked toward Caleb, who had brought both the clean confession and the rough notes from which it had been prepared.
Master Rook, does the official account contain words that the prisoner did not speak?
Every declaration attributed to Samuel Wardwell was spoken during his examination. The account does not preserve every question, repetition, or correction that preceded those declarations.
Then the confession is an accurate record of what passed from his mouth.
It is an accurate record of the answers selected for preservation.
The distinction is unnecessary for the purpose of the inquest. The prisoner acknowledges speaking the words, and now declares that he spoke falsely. Both statements may be entered without requiring the jury to examine the clerk's method.
That method is the reason the confession exists. Remove the questions that constructed it, and you make the whole invention appear to have begun inside my own mind.
The jury will determine what weight should be given to a confession followed by retraction. You should consider whether another change in your account improves your condition.
My condition cannot be improved by another lie. I know now that I shall die for this, whether I own the confession or deny it. If I own it, the court will call me a witch. If I deny it, the court will say that the devil has taught me to conceal the truth.
Caleb wrote the substance of Wardwell's declaration. The surviving note would state that the confession had been taken from his mouth, but that he said he had belied himself and expected to die whether he owned it or not. The reasoning that filled the room became a single sentence. The following day, the grand jury returned 2 true bills against Samuel Wardwell. One accused him of tormenting Martha Sprague through witchcraft. The other accused him of making a covenant with the devil 20 years earlier. Wardwell was brought to the bar before the court of Oyer and Terminer. The confession he had repudiated was read aloud before the same testimony that had helped produce it.
You have admitted that this confession was taken from your own mouth. Do you now ask the court to believe that you invented an elaborate covenant, named accomplices, and accused yourself of afflicting a young woman without any truth behind your words?
I ask the court to understand why an innocent man might confess after learning that innocence cannot be proved by denial. I gave the examination what it demanded because I believed confession would preserve my life.
Yet you now abandon that confession when you discover that it may be used against you. Each alteration in your account appears suited to your immediate interest.
My immediate interest has always been to remain alive. But that does not make the first account true. I confessed because I was afraid of dying, and I withdraw the confession because I am afraid of dying beneath a lie that carries my own name.
Martha Sprague was 16 years old. She testified that Wardwell had pinched her, struck her down, and tormented her both before and during his examination.
I have seen his apparition when his body was elsewhere, and I have felt pins driven into me when he looked in my direction. Even after his confession, the afflictions continued, which proves that he had not truly abandoned the devil.
You hear what is alleged against you. If your body was confined while your shape continued to torment her, how do you account for what she experienced?
I cannot account for another person's suffering merely because she has attached my face to it. If distance cannot establish my innocence, then there is nowhere I can stand that will place me beyond accusation.
Other testimony concerned Wardwell's fortune-telling. Neighbors recalled correct predictions, his habit of examining hands, and his claim that cattle would gather when he called. Conduct once treated as amusement was presented as evidence of concealed power.
Several witnesses remember knowledge that you could not have obtained through ordinary means. Are we to believe that every successful prediction was accidental?
You have summoned those who remember when I guessed correctly, but not those who laughed when I was wrong. A man who tells enough fortunes will occasionally strike upon the truth, especially when he knows the families and private concerns of those who ask him.
The charge before this court is not that you entertained your neighbors. It is that your divinations arose from a covenant which you described under examination.
Then the confession remains the foundation of everything, even after I have told you why it is false. Every piece of evidence leads back to words the court first taught me to speak.
The court heard contradiction where Wardwell intended explanation. His confession was treated as knowledge of the crime.
We find Samuel Wardwell guilty of the witchcraft and covenant charged against him.
No new fact had appeared between confession and conviction. The same words had simply changed their legal purpose. When Wardwell believed they might preserve him, they had been called repentance. Once he withdrew them, they became proof.
You have been found guilty upon the evidence presented and the confession issued from your own mouth. The sentence of the court is that you be taken from this place to the place of execution, and there hanged by the neck until you are dead.
I confessed because your examinations taught me that a lie would be rewarded with life. I stand condemned because I discovered too late that the reward was only enough time for you to turn that lie into evidence.
The sentence has been pronounced. Remove the prisoner.
Caleb found Wardwell waiting under guard in the passage below the chamber. The sentence had changed his posture less than the verdict had changed the meaning of his confession.
When you wrote that I had belied myself, did you believe me? Or did you preserve the words merely because I had spoken them?
I believe the confession was created by an examination that would not accept your denial. I also believe you repeated its inventions because you thought they would keep you alive.
Then you believe I am innocent of the covenant, the river, and the girl suffering.
Yes, I believe you accused yourself falsely.
You have finally answered me without hiding behind your office. Now write that answer somewhere the court cannot reduce it to another contradiction.
The court has already read the truth and decided what it means. I do not know where I can place another sentence that will alter what has been done.
Then your records do not preserve truth. They preserve the order in which authority agrees to hear it.
Wardwell was led back toward the jail. Caleb remained in the passage with the confession under one arm and the retraction beneath it. Both documents were accurate accounts of words Samuel Wardwell had spoken. Only one had been permitted to explain the other. The execution was fixed for the 22nd of September. 8 names appeared upon the warrant, and Samuel Wardwell's was among them. Before sunrise on the 22nd of September, the final death warrant of the Court of Oyer and Terminer was carried into Salem jail. 8 prisoners were called forward: Martha Corey, Mary Easty, Alice Parker, Mary Parker, Anne Pudiator, Wilmot Red, Margaret Scott, and Samuel Wardwell. Stephen Sewell, the court's senior clerk and Caleb's superior, handed him a copy of the warrant.
The marshal will return this after the sentences have been carried out. You may prepare the usual entry and leave the date open until confirmation arrives.
I intend to accompany them. I recorded the confession used against Wardwell, and I should see what the final sentence in that account actually means.
A clerk is not required to witness an execution. Your responsibility is to certify that the lawful order was completed, not to place yourself inside every consequence of it.
I have spent months removing consequences because they did not fit the purpose of a record. That has not kept me outside them.
You speak as though accuracy were a form of guilt. No clerk can preserve every hesitation, gesture, or private motive without making the record unusable.
We did not remove things at random. We repeatedly removed the uncertainty that weakened the accusation and preserved the certainty that strengthened it.
If you can no longer distinguish the work of a clerk from the judgment of the court, you will find this office increasingly difficult.
I think the difficulty began when I learned the distinction too well.
Stephen studied him for a moment, then released the warrant.
Attend if you believe it necessary. When you return, the court will still require an orderly account.
Wardwell waited near the prison door with iron around his wrists. His wife Sarah and his daughter Mercy remained prisoners elsewhere, while the younger children had been left without either parent.
I wondered whether they would send you. A court should have its clerk nearby when it reaches the end of a story.
Stephen said my presence was unnecessary. I came because I no longer believe the final line can be understood without seeing what came before it.
You have already seen what came before it. The magistrate offered me a confession. The clerk made it coherent, and the court returned it as proof. Today is merely the part that cannot be revised.
Is there anything you want entered before the warrant is completed?
Write that I confessed falsely because I was afraid. Write that I withdrew the confession when I understood that living beneath it would leave my wife, my children, and every person I named beneath the same lie.
Your retraction is already preserved in the record.
It is preserved as another reason to distrust me. I want someone to understand that the retraction was the first honest answer I gave after entering Salem.
I understand it.
Then do not shorten it after I am gone.
The prisoners were taken toward Proctor's Ledge at the foot of Gallows Hill. No confession had saved them, and no final denial could reopen their cases. Above the ledge, 8 ropes waited in the morning air. Some spectators came to witness justice, others to witness death. The distinction required no different place in the crowd.
Master Rook, when the warrant is returned, will it name all 8 of us?
It will state that each sentence was carried out according to the court's order.
Then we will be equal at last. 8 names, 8 sentences, and no room remaining for the different roads by which we were brought here.
The official return will say no more than the warrant requires. My own account will preserve what happened to you.
Do not make me better than I was. I told fortunes because I enjoyed knowing what others did not, and I spoke carelessly when people admired me for it. Preserve the foolishness, but do not allow foolishness to become witchcraft merely because the court found the transformation useful.
I will preserve both.
Near the place of execution, the condemned were permitted to speak. Wardwell faced the spectators who had followed him from Salem.
I stand before you as a sinner, but not as a wizard. I told fortunes, made idle boasts, and allowed fear to govern my answers. Yet I never entered into covenant with the devil, or sent any spirit to torment my neighbors. The confession read against me was false. I spoke it because I believed those who confessed would be spared, and I withdrew it because a few more days of life could not make its accusations true.
The executioner stood nearby, smoking tobacco. As Wardwell continued, a movement of air carried the smoke across his face. He turned aside, and his words were interrupted.
The devil will not allow him to finish. Even now, his master closes his mouth against the truth.
A common gust of smoke became one final piece of evidence. Wardwell's interruption was interpreted by the same method that had interpreted his fortune-telling, his denial, and his confession.
If my cough is proof against me, then there was never any breath I could have drawn that would establish my innocence.
He looked toward Caleb, who held no paper in his hands.
Remember the whole sentence.
Caleb watched as Samuel Wardwell was placed beneath one of the ropes. Beside him stood 7 women whose examinations, accusations, and trials had also been reduced to completed judgments. The sentences were carried out. Before the day ended, a minister would describe the sight as 8 firebrands of hell hanging together. Caleb saw 8 bodies and 8 accounts that could no longer be corrected by the people whose names they carried. When Caleb returned, the marshal's confirmation was waiting upon the table. Stephen placed it beside the warrant.
The sentences were executed according to the order of the court. That is the fact which must now be entered.
It is a fact, but it is not an account of what happened. Wardwell protested his innocence, explained why he had confessed, and was answered with the claim that the devil had interrupted him with tobacco smoke.
The return of a death warrant is not the proper place for arguments concerning the evidence. If you add everything you witnessed, you will produce a new examination, rather than a completed record.
That has always been the defense of the clean account. Every omission appears reasonable by itself, until nothing remains except the version most useful to the court.
You may keep private notes if your conscience requires them. but the official entry must answer the question placed before us. Were the sentences carried out?
They were carried out.
Then write what can be certified.
Caleb entered the date and confirmed that the order had been fulfilled. He did not alter the warrant, add an accusation against the judges, or pretend that a clerk possessed authority he did not have. Afterward, he opened his private notes and copied Wardwell's retraction without improving its grammar or shortening its reasoning. He placed the clean confession beside the account of how it had been produced.
The record should not require a dead man to remain consistent with the lie that killed him.
The court of Oyer and Termina never held another execution. Opposition to its methods had spread beyond the prisoners and their families, while accusations had reached people whom rank and reputation could protect. In October, Governor William Phipps dissolved the special court and instructed that spectral evidence should no longer be accepted. The end did not arrive because Salem suddenly discovered that witchcraft was impossible. It arrived because the machinery of accusation could no longer command the same confidence once its methods were examined outside the rooms that had created them. Sarah Wardwell was later convicted by the new court, but she was reprieved and survived. Mercy Wardwell spent more than 5 months in prison. The younger children were placed with other households, while livestock, crops, and Samuel's carpenter's tools were taken from the family estate. 18 years later, Samuel Wardwell's eldest son petitioned the colony. His account did not describe cats, apparitions, or a prince of the air. It listed 5 cows, a horse, 9 hogs, 8 loads of hay, 6 acres of corn, and the tools with which his father had earned a living. The value came to £36 and 15 shillings. The colony reversed the attainder and granted compensation to the family, but no sum could restore the carpenter, the household that had been broken apart, or the names drawn into his confession. Salem produced thousands of written lines in its search for invisible crimes. The records preserved accusations, gestures, fits, denials, and confessions, often with greater confidence than the rooms in which they had been spoken. Yet one sentence survived beside Samuel Wardwell's confession. It recorded that the words had been taken from his mouth, but that he said he had belied himself. He knew, the clerk wrote, that he should die for it whether he owned it or no. The account was brief. It was not clear. That was why the truth remained inside it.